Welcome back. It's the 1st of August, a beautiful Friday in the neighborhood. The Appsurd Show is here for you. What's your opening line today, Sardor?
Dude, I'm excited. It's already eighth month of the year. We're like what, almost on the fourth quarter? No, we're halfway through the third quarter. That's right. Yeah. Anyways, no, I'm excited for all things going on and just the whole industry. Looks like the stock market's popping, actually. Whatever happened to tariffs today, actually got to catch up on that. I think today was the resolution day, right? But not to get too political, but just on general state of the things
Yeah,
in the US
general
type of thing.
global economy wise, we had the Fed keep interest rates the same yesterday. In response to that, Trump finalized his tariffs that were going into effect today. The markets have been pretty shaky, choppy, and then jobs reports were revised down by 258,000 jobs in the U.S. I'm talking
As
like
in,
the last 2 months. The reported number initially was 150,000, and it got revised down to 15,000. I think between the 2 months, the revision was only 20,000 jobs, new jobs, net new, were created in the U.S. First originally reported almost 300,000. So that's all happened in the last 48 hours here.
wow, wow. Curious, yeah, how that got reflected on markets. I haven't checked my Robinhood account yet, but
I think
what
we're
a
down a tad here
yeah.
today after all that.
Oh yeah, market is down a little bit. Yeah,
Been at all-time highs, absolutely ripping away. So
yeah,
we're due for a little correction.
yeah.
But yeah,
Julio.
start off by don't imagine everybody viewing this episode is going to know exactly what we do here on the Appsurd Show. So figured it was kind of a good time to recap. I think we're about 20 episodes in, Sardor. We get
Oh
together once
yeah.
a week. Yeah, we get together once a week, go through about 5 viral trending topics in AI, app development, general news, share them on screen, and just have an open conversation through them. That's kind of what you can expect from the Appsurd Show if this is your first episode.
And I think we're breaking this threshold. 80% of podcasts don't break through 21 episodes actually. So next episode will be, if it's our 21st, will be in that 80th percentile of all podcasts that just give up before they reach 21 episodes. Apparently, that's
Yeah,
according to
you
I think Alex Hormozy was.
love that. You make a good point, and that's what we try to strive to show through these episodes is
So
that
this is our
consistency.
last episode, guys, because we ain't your top
Yeah.
80%.
No, just like being an entrepreneur, whether you're building the app or starting a business, everything's about consistency and putting out, raw, unfiltered thoughts and sticking to it. Is kind of the theme here. We don't put a ton of time or attention into the edits, exactly what goes into this. Just keep it super authentic to make sure that we're keeping up with it and doing it weekly.
Exacto. Let's go.
Exacto. All right, we're gonna roll into the first topic here. This is from somebody who works at Google. It says here at Google, we are moving from a writing first culture to a building first one. Writing was a proxy for clear thinking, optimized for scarce engineering resources and long dev cycles. You had to get it right before you build. Now, when the time to vibe code prototype is equal to the time to
Hmm.
write a PRD, PMs can show instead of tell. Role profiles are blurring, creativity and building are happening in parallel. What are your thoughts here, Sardor?
This is interesting because this ties back to what I was talking to our team about. Is like, hey, we spend so much time. We have a business analyst on staff who like puts together the PRD every time for every potential client, and then we just leave it there. And then we turn it into mock-up designs on Figma and whatnot. We actually do more than just a prompt. We do a much larger scope of work with logic and back and forth. And I think we should definitely, if this is the case at Google, this actually proves my hypothesis. If we're spending so much time like writing the scope of work, why don't we just like vibe code it too? Like, because I was able to vibe code an app for one of our potential clients, a first version of it in 20 minutes the other day. And I couldn't believe because I was like, where's the backend? And I ran it by our dev team. They're like, there is no backend, but this is so simple that you don't even need a backend, right? But my point being is like, Absolutely. What's happening is like when I'm walking our clients through a scope of work, I'm vibe coding something for them before the call as well, just to show you've been doing the same thing too. I think I've borrowed that technique from you. And I think moving forward, yes, like if you're going to write the requirements, well, you know what other thing I used to have is like, I have this, dude, the amount of things I've vibe coded lately, I haven't finished, but like I used to do the same actually. Matter of fact, I have over 200 plus ideas in my notes app on my iPhone with like business ideas, right? What I'm doing now is like, not am I only just writing them down, I'm actually like putting those prompts into Replit every time and just at least starting something. Like today, I was like, hey, I need to save all my credit cards in one place. And I usually, where I used to save all my credit cards, like scanned version of them is like, I had a private Telegram channel where I used to post them. And it's not super secure. I have to like manually scan and then edit and like put it in. Today I vibe coded an app where I can save all my credit card, all my insurance cards all in one vault. It's pretty much like ready on Replit. I just need to launch it now, deploy it, and then it's ready. Like, and I'm going to use that as my personal credit card vault, as my like virtual, like whatever you call it, wallet, just to store all my cards in one place. And I made it so that the AI filters it by category of like whatever like card I scan, just puts it in the right category for me. Super simple. But then I'm sure I'm going to come up with some more custom features across the board. And back to our conversation previously, like everybody's going to have their own mini apps, right? So even for me, it went from just writing my ideas to like vibe coding them now. So I get how like this is super validating that somebody at Google says this.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It reminds me what you brought up at first of how we scope out app builds, our current processes. I think it was 2 weeks ago I said to you, we need to flip this on its head and reverse engineer it. When we talk to a client, especially with simpler apps, ones that get more complex, of course, they take much more time and care to go through. But simpler consumer-facing apps, getting a vibe code built, and then from those ideas that come out of it, that first simple prompt, you might put a couple sentences, you get ideas for features based on how it sets up the footer of the website, the navigation of the website, and what that can roll into. You reverse engineer it, you screenshot that, copy the code, put it into GPT or something similar, and ask it to write the scope of work for the project. And if you have a specific template for that, you rework it into that, and then boom, in a fairly automated way, without a ton of human resources and time, you have the scope of work created. I think it's a good way we could go, but agree with you entirely. This is going to change how a lot of different roles look, from design to product, you name it.
Yep.
Awesome. I'm going to roll on to another topic here. And I told you before we started that I have a little anti-vibe code, a little vibe code hate coming.
Yeah, that was intriguing to me. What do you got for me? Or ready to fight me?
Or at least we'll call it a progress reality check of where the state of vibe coding is actually at. So this is from the CEO of Replit.
Oh, my favorite guy.
Yep. Said a public company CEO told me AI coding has had negligible impact on his engineering teams. Instead, the real transformation has been in their product and design teams using Replit. Asked him how does he reconcile this with CEOs saying 25 to 50% of code is generated by AI. He said that's also true in their case. The AI does generate a lot of their code, but whatever time saved in generating the code is lost back in debugging, reverting bugs, security audits. So if you measure time to ship, PRs merged, or whatever high-level metric, you don't see any impact. Whereas his non-technical teams, the non-technical ones, gained fundamentally newer superpowers of being able to make software. Prototyping with Replit makes that iteration speed incredibly faster, and this kind of goes to the same concept of what we just talked about in the last tweet there.
Wow. Part about engineering teams, and I'm sure every company will be different, but it made sense to profound impact coding agents are having on. Wow, this is. I love. First of all, I love this guy for like super transparency. Like this guy, I think he's the only founder among all these founders that are doing vibe coding platforms that is not on a hype train. Like, have you listened to his podcast episode on Joe Rogan podcast?
No, I haven't.
I recommend everybody check it out. This guy is real He doesn't just like say things just to say or like promote his company. Whereas like if you look at Lovable, for example, like I mean, brilliant, smart guys. I mean, respect to Andre, the founder of Lovable, but you can tell he like overhypes his company and the whole industry and everything. Amjad keeps it real. And like here again, he's keeping it real, right? Like he's saying the reality that actually is validated by my conversation today with Johnny, our tech lead. As I was talking to him, I was like, are you vibe coding? Are you using AI? And he's like, yeah, I'm using Cursor. It's adding some speed improvements. And he did give some examples like where on one of our projects, actually, Patriot Dreams, he rebuilt this one logic of the app where you push back, I think, on one of the features the client requested. He rebuilt that whole thing on Cursor, which would have taken him much longer by hand. But he says in a lot of cases, it's super risky still. He says the same thing that Amjad's saying, is that it just screws up and I have to spend time debugging, which in totality takes the same time.
Yep.
But he did say it's still a net positive for him. Yeah. But I agree. If you compare the two, right, the technical people using AI versus non-technical, like for somebody like me, who's for the first time able to code anything, like me going from zero coding to some kind of coding, some kind of building is a massive jump, as opposed to an engineer who's able to potentially save 10, 20%, whatever efficiency. It's not a big jump. So yeah, I agree that Amjad is acknowledging here is like, this was my hypothesis as well. It's like, when you look at Replit and Lovable, these guys are claiming $100 million ARR, right?
Yep.
My intuitive prediction was that most of this ARR is coming from non-technical people who are coding for the first time, not the engineers who are going to be using it, which is why I was afraid of this being a bubble where what if non-technical people they're just prototyping? Okay, they can prototype, but how often do you prototype? Like you're not going to keep prototyping and keep subscribing to this product, right? So I was afraid of this having a big churn unless something changes fundamentally with vibe coding, like, you know, where we talked about how what it's missing in our opinion is like proper scoping, right? But anyways, yeah, all in all, I agree with him. I think both technical and non-technical people should keep doing this though. A, the platforms are getting better, and B, they're getting better at coding. One of the things that Johnny actually said is like, I said, how do you deal with cases where the AI screwed up, right? You gave it a prompt and Cursor, for example, generated something redundant. He says, I still find value in that. I just revert back to the previous build and I try it again. And so he's gone to the net positive of like, you know, coding with AI. And so did a couple of our other engineers. So I think like you have to like give it enough try, even as a technical person, and it's still a net positive. But I agree with him that for non-technical people, it's a much better value.
Yep. Would agree with all that there. I think it goes back to the theme of that it's really at the stage for prototyping. Prototyping and assistance on specific cases. But the theme of today is kind of that we're not there yet. Most people who want to build a proper product for their business or scale an idea into a business themselves, they're going to need a team of engineers behind them, because there's with so much more code being generated, ideas, things out there, there's so much more that needs attention. So just kind of wanted to reiterate that whole aspect there to you.
100%. And one last thing I want to also say on this is like every new vibe coding platform, they're just copying each other. They're just using Claude code and like wrapping it into the same interface and same logic, which is why like these whole vibe coding platforms, they all became a commodity. But there are some that are innovating, and one of them is like, I got to give credit to Dreamflow. I've tested their new latest vibe coding platform. It's different than others in a way that it actually like the UI is kind of the same as others, but they actually let you there's few things that they did differently. You can export it, you'll soon be able to export it to Flutterflow, which then combines the power of vibe coding with no code and low code, right? Which is also very powerful, like still being able to drag and drop and do things, you know? And I think soon they're going to allow you to do the vice versa, where you start with drag and drop or templates on Flutterflow, and then you can export that to Dreamflow, then keep vibe coding from there. So then I think we're going to truly see the power of vibe coding, because then you're merging all the potential, all these powerful technologies, such as like regular coding that can be exported into a vibe coding thing. That's already possible on Cursor, right? You can bring your custom code, put it in there, and keep vibe coding on top. Now imagine being able to do no code and low code, drag and drop, and then taking that code and vibe code from there. That
Yeah, I
actually
think
is massive too.
Yeah, you're speaking to the interoperability of it all. And we've talked about this with Figma acquiring the payload CMS, but just being able to go seamlessly from design to initial template to build on top of that through natural language.
Yeah.
That's the I think the end goal here. And speaking of end goal, this is just a additional commentary on the theme topic that we've been talking about.
So what does this say? Until you actually see the slop that AI-generated code produces in real production apps, you won't realize how far we actually are from reality. It's horrendous. Again, I've spoken to enough engineers to push back on this, man. Like, again, I think, yeah, there's sloppiness, but I'm telling you, like, a lot of engineers, enough engineers told me this is a net positive. It's a net positive. You haggle with it a little bit. I think people like this, Alex Cohn, I'm sure he's a good engineer, but like, they're just like
troll. He's a famous troll.
Really? Okay. But I think he's A, a little close-minded, and B, he hasn't given it enough try because of that. Like, you have to give it enough try. Like, you can figure it out. It's a net positive. It's not great. It's not perfect. Yeah, we are far from like it being fully replacing engineers, but figure out a way to make it a net positive. I think that's actually, we can bring one of our engineers, or maybe John, our CTO, on the next call to actually talk about how this can be a net positive for engineers, the vibe coding, I don't agree with Alex on this. I do not.
I think it's funny. I've come to follow him long enough that I don't really take anything he says too seriously. He's one of those hyperbole exaggeration guys. But another one of your favorite guys. This, I think, is a good question to the whole theme that is evidence of where the whole vibe coding state is at. What is your favorite vibe coded app that you actually use?
Mine is T-App. I gotta confess, I'm the one who leaked the whole thing. We got a request the other day for an app that this guy wanted to build, the male version of T-App. He actually reached out to us. We haven't been able to connect yet, but yeah. Somebody's looking to do a male version of it.
That's funny, yeah, because we talked about that in the last pod. There was the tweet.
Maybe he heard us.
Yeah, it was a example tweet of what it would look like. That's how it always happens, right? You speak something into existence. All right, let's roll on. So I'm gonna take that as you don't have any favorite vibe coded app that you regularly use.
I actually haven't seen anything big in production. When I heard about the T-App, I was like, remember what I said? I said, at least I'm happy something came out to the public that actually worked, right? Even though it was like security was sloppy, the product at least worked. Like, it was out in the public and it was successful. Like, it got users. I know until it wasn't, but yeah, nothing that I am using. Maybe there is something that I don't know it's been vibe coded yet that I'm using. No. Are you using anything that you know is vibe coded?
There's one I downloaded that I know is vibe coded, and I think I've used it twice, and haven't picked it back up because I haven't fully set up my account to actually get the use out of it. So.
What are the answers here? I'm curious. Like, is anybody saying they have used anything? Traditional coding follows 9.9 rule. Vibe coded mobile marketplace. I could click the URL, using this every day to force myself to work out. See, this guy said he's making an app, or this guy archive.ph. I mean, I don't know if it's actually, there are users there.
Yeah, I think everybody's promoting their app. Yeah, the guy Alex Cohen, tweet.
Yeah, built for themselves. You see?
Yep.
Your personal software is being. But again, even those that are built for themselves, I claim that I built this journaling app. I still actually haven't used it. I have a confession, dude. All the vibe coding apps I built for myself, I haven't really launched them yet properly and haven't been using them. Yeah. I have everything in the 80 to 90% completion and abandoned.
Yeah. It reminds me early on when website builders started getting really easy and drag and drop simple templates, being able to pop up websites. Maybe 10 years ago when I had 5, 6 domains, it reminds me of that concept, right? Like you never launch all of them. Maybe you launch one of them, but you learn from it, kind of.
That's actually a great analogy, which doesn't mean that that whole thing died off. There's still Wix.com, there's still Squarespace, but yeah, it leads to a lot of incomplete things.
Yeah.
But I think just like everything else, like, you know, there's only like that 5 to 10% that actually sees the light of the day, and the rest just kind of dies off. So yeah, I think it's early that, you know, we aren't using anything that's vibe coded yet, and then every day. But T app being out there is a proof that it is possible. That was actually inspiring to me. T app was inspiring to me in that sense.
It was very inspiring. Gonna move over to the last one. This is the same person from Google we had at the start. Similar to the topic and some of the comments we've seen. Seeing lots of AI agents that are cool demos but not great products. That's because the last 20% of quality is 80% of the work. I believe the bridge from clever to indispensable is a deep focus on a few things. Nailing the specific problem the agent's solving, going deep on 3 or 4 hero journeys, defining the required tools, data sources, planning, reasoning, and what's the end goal, the end user experience. What do you think? How would you, kind of apply this to other things as well?
I mean, again, this is a common theme of like that last 20% of quality is 80% of the work. That last 20% of every project is 80% of the time usually, because that's where I would even say, like, I actually don't like the 20-80 rule. That's a side note. It's just a good way to remember it, but it's usually not 20-80. It's usually even more disproportional than that. It's usually like 95-5 or like 1 to like 90. Like it's very disproportional usually. Like that for us, like usually like last 10%, dude, is usually 50% of the time of the project. Like if we take like whatever 3 months to build an app, first we can build 90% of the app in first half of the timeline. But then that last 10% we haggle over with client and everything. That's usually like that 50% of the time again goes into that. It's always usually that disproportional. But anyways, not to get distracted. This same thing with agents. I haven't seen, honestly. What are the agents that you're using? There's only one agent I'm using every day. I'm using the Comet browser agent.
Yeah, I've only really used ChatGPT's new agent, more than once. Others I've tested out,
but not daily, right? What is an agent that you use daily?
No, I don't. I don't feel like any of the agents are at daily use. I wish it was much more simple of guided, specific, simple tasks. Hey, go research this website every day or this Google News link and tell me what are the top trending articles for these keywords. Simple things like that, more so sound like a Zapier Zap. Freely letting agents run, I feel like they never actually solve what you need. When you just give it an initial task, thinking how an agent should work, I feel like they need to be more task bots, is where we're jumping from Zaps to agents, and there needs to be like these agent task bots that are really specific. And I think, if I remember correctly, OpenAI is doing a form of this where I think maybe it's HubSpot, Shopify, some of these larger businesses are building specific flows, automations and flows, and tasks like this in cohesion with OpenAI. So I'm excited to see how that expands.
This just shows that it's very early. There's only 2 agents apparently that I just thought of that I'm using, even though both are not super daily. There's one Zapier agent that I've got going on since January, and it just started this month. It started working stably. Finally, it's working every day for me. It looks at my calendar and like researches everybody who's like on my calendar for the day, like sends me a report of like with my custom prompt, which is like, what is the app that they could be interested in building? Like, because I want to know, like, if I'm going to have a call with them, right? What is the app that they're interested in building? And like their background and a few other things that are going to be helping me, on that meeting. But that's one agent that's working for me daily. Another agent that I just started getting used to is like this Comet browser Perplexity Assistant. Even though that, yesterday was supposed to be the third consecutive day that I'm using that agent daily. But guess what? It broke. I gave it a task to analyze the contract that I was reviewing for the client. And then I said, okay, now that you've analyzed what are the red flags, go and rewrite that with the terms that I need to do. And it just said, Comet browser agent is not working. Like shit. It just broke.
Oh, that's how I feel sometimes.
But my thing is why I love this agent specifically is like it's built into the browser. Finally, utilizing browser as it should be. Like actually my prediction is Google is probably working on an update on Chrome where they're going to have an agent built in as well because they called it a revenge year, right? This year is a revenge year for them. So they're probably going to copy Perplexity and launch their own version of Chrome. And they absolutely can crush any other browser because every browser runs on Chrome. Anyway, this, I agree with Madhu Guru. Yeah, a lot of these are incomplete.
Would agree, and I feel that way with AI a lot now. It just doesn't cut it. I think it's because we got such an advance in the first couple of years of these models and their capabilities, their reasoning we've kind of hit a plateau right now. One, because of data center availability, getting all those GPUs online, and two, if you recall, Apple wrote that paper about the reasoning model can't get much better. It's hit a plateau, and that there's got to be a change to the user experience before we get to the next level. That's my closing take there. Half GPUs, half plateau.
Yeah, the GPUs was news to me that you told me last week. That was interesting. I could sense it, like I said. Like sometimes just ChatGPT was just getting dumber. Sometimes it's getting smarter. It's not stably like same reasoning level. But I think that's the norm now. Did you see that the new Grok update, that it is now going to automatically decide whether it's going to engage in a fast response and like make the response basic, or it's going to take more GPU power and going to be reasoning more, but you're going to have to wait longer for the response. You used to be able to toggle that. And obviously every user like myself just turned on the most advanced mode, but that's overkill for a lot of tasks. You turn on automatically the most powerful reasoning model, but then you ask it a basic question, it still has to spend a lot of energy to respond to a basic question. So now they now have this thing where it automatically decides whether it's a heavy mode or expert or fast mode.
I like that. Not having to switch models. I think that's it's nice for people that are early on in AI and really want to fine tune how to use it. But I think we are going to get to a stage, and I think where Elon and XAI and Grok are going is that it's one simple interface for the general consumer, the general user. You're not having to switch around models manually. It's kind of reminds me of the car when you had manual gear shift before automatic transmission with these AI models.
Exactly.
We'll put a wrap on it right there. We're going to have to bring back